Hi everyone, welcome back. In today's video, I figured I would do a get ready with me, and as you can tell probably from the title of the video and the thumbnail, I still have a period after having a hysterectomy. So if you're interested in knowing more about that, then just keep on watching. So I'm going to be doing my eyebrows first, and I'm using the Danessa Myricks Groundwork palette. I'm going to be using this in the front of my brows, this portion, the shade Stone, and then the shade Sculpted for the tail end of my brows. And I also figured I would try out the, is it Viseart or Visart? I've heard it pronounced both ways, but it's the Petite Fours Violetta. I'm butchering that, I'm pretty sure, but I know I am. So this is the palette. I haven't tried it yet, so I figured I would try it in this video. This was the other palette that quad that Christine sent me. So thank you so much again, Christine, if you're watching. I have been using the Groundwork palette every time I do my makeup since I've gotten it, so it's getting a lot of use from me. So for those of you who don't know, I had a hysterectomy March 5th of this year, so that was about 3 months ago at this point. And I did not go into the surgery lightly. I was worried about any of the possible complications. I talked to my doctor a lot about what could go wrong. I had done a lot of online research, looking up the possible outcomes of a hysterectomy, and my doctor was great because she just listened to all my concerns. It didn't make me feel rushed at all, and she addressed all of my concerns. And I had been worried about like vaginal prolapse. That was something that came up a lot as like complications, incontinence, urinary incontinence, and bowel incontinence, which I didn't want to have either of those, obviously. So I was bringing that up, and she said that those aren't particularly common, and a lot of times that people who have the vaginal prolapse or urinary incontinence, it's because they've had kids and had vaginal births, and I don't have any kids, so I didn't have, that shouldn't be a concern for me. So anyway, she already knew that I had a lot of concerns about different possible complications, and that I really didn't want any complications. Nobody wants complications. And one thing that was brought up early on was that, and this is important for the rest of the story, is that I had an appendectomy when I was younger, and my appendix had ruptured, which was not a fun time. I was very sick in the hospital for days, and I mean, I was very sick. It happened almost 20 years ago at this point, so I was like, oh, it happened a really long time ago. But she said scar tissue doesn't just go away on its own. She mentioned that might be an issue, but she also didn't seem like super concerned about it and still wanted to like go ahead with the surgery and stuff. So as I said, I had been doing a lot of like online research, looking up different people's stories with hysterectomies, and one person I came across, I actually came across her because I was looking into Pilates, but Jessica Volant Pilates, I'll have her channel linked in the description box. I highly recommend her channel. She had a hysterectomy. She also has had vaginal prolapse, which is why, like, part of why which was addressed in her hysterectomy was like they fixed that. And then she has also had like a double mastectomy. I'm going to be using this top corner shade throughout my crease. I had actually been watching her channel for a while, for her Pilates videos, which I highly recommend her channel, because she's also a physical therapist, and she brings a lot of that knowledge into her videos and has a lot of modifications. And her videos are mostly about functional fitness, like flexibility and a strong core, but they're also easy to follow, and she has a lot of beginners workouts, and I just love her workout videos, her Pilates videos. There's a lot of options for, like, there's 10-minute, there's a ton of like 10-minute ones, and ones that you could just do every day basically. Anyway, she has multiple videos about her hysterectomy, and in one of them she mentioned how she wanted her cervix taken out because you can still bleed every month if you have your cervix left. I did not know that that was a possibility until she mentioned that. I'm going to be using this dark shade in the outer corner. So that was something I brought up to my doctor. I was like, I really don't want to have a monthly cycle after I have a hysterectomy, you know. She said, well, definitely let's take out your cervix then. Apparently, because there's endometrial tissue in the cervix, you can still have a period. I'm gonna take this this shade and kind of put it in the outer portion of my eye. Anyway, I decided to have my cervix removed because she said there was really like no reason to keep it. I'm gonna take the shade and put it in the inner portion of my eye. Oh, and I should mention also that we were keeping my ovaries. So you also, if you have ovaries and your cervix, there's a chance that you will continue to have monthly cycles. It's a small chance, but it obviously does happen. I'm gonna bring this to my outer lid as well. And I 100% wanted to keep my ovaries because if you don't keep your ovaries, you will likely immediately go into menopause, which I'm 34, so we didn't want that. I really like this palette so far, like that shade that I just put on. It looks really pretty. I'm just kind of blending it better in the crease. So after my surgery, my husband told me that she wasn't able to take out my cervix because it was connected to my bowel because of my appendectomy. The scar tissue fused it to my bowels, I guess, and she made the executive decision during the surgery to not remove my cervix because then I'd have issues with my bowels, which I was grateful to her for that, because I didn't want to have that kind of issue. So she said I'd have to have one of those bags for a little while that like collected your feces basically, which sounds like really gross to have to like deal with that, and she kind of knew I didn't want to deal with that and it wasn't worth it. But she said that she actually took a lot of my cervix out, and she was able to get a lot of it out, but some of it was still left behind, and she cauterized it. She's like, so you shouldn't have any bleeding after your sutures dissolve. I'm gonna take a little bit of this shade in my outer corner. I knew that there was gonna be bleeding initially, like when my sutures were coming out. So not like the first couple days there's bleeding, there's like spotting, and then a few weeks later there's more spotting when your sutures are dissolving and coming out. So I already kind of expected some spotting from that. So I had my hysterectomy, and then about a month later I had spotting, and I was like, oh, this is probably from my sutures, and I wasn't very concerned. But then like 7 weeks post-op, basically right after I filmed my update for my update on my hysterectomy, basically like the next day I started bleeding again. It's kind of funny that it happened like that. I'm just gonna do some eyeliner real quick. I was honestly a little bit concerned because I didn't think it was supposed to happen again after like after the sutures initially dissolved. She took out a lot of my cervix and cauterized a lot. So she said I really shouldn't have a period. I'm gonna do my mascara. I like to layer, so starting with this one and then this one. This is the L'Oreal Telescopic, and then this is the L'Oreal Voluminous. There was kind of like a concerning amount of blood. It was more than just spotting, and luckily, like, I had an appointment with my doctor literally the next day when that happened, because I was pretty worried, because I was like, this is kind of a lot for... It wasn't a lot. I mean, it wasn't anywhere near as much as like a period, but it was a lot when you think about the fact that you just had surgery. You're not really supposed to be bleeding after that. After like 6 weeks is when they say you're not really supposed to be bleeding. So I was actually pretty nervous, because again, I didn't think it was... I didn't think I would still have a period, because again, it was pretty rare. So I was like, what's happening? I'm gonna use my ColourPop eyeliner. It's a nude shade. I think it's called Honey Dude, but it's just like a nude eyeliner shade. And I'm just putting that on my lower waterline. So I will say it is pretty light. It's not a big inconvenience, which is nice because my periods have been so inconvenient. I'm gonna use my gripping primer. So I went to my doctor and I told her about what happened, and she's like, well, it's probably the sutures. It's not it's not that uncommon for bleeding to happen 7-8 weeks after hysterectomy. It does happen, so it's probably not something to be too concerned about. And she's like, let's just take a look. I'm gonna use my Il Maquillage foundation. So I do the whole thing like I'm getting a pap smear, basically. And you know, she's examining me, and she's like, she had said it's probably a sutures coming out, or she's like, there is something with granular bleeding or something, but she said it would be too early. It's probably too early for that, because I guess it's like something where you can bleed from the scar. I really don't know. I wish I knew more about that, but it's something where like you would have to have developed scars already, I think. So she's like, it's probably too early for that, which was good, because I think that would have been worse for me. I don't know, actually. I don't really know what that would have entailed, because that wasn't the case for me. But she was examining me, and she was like, oh, that's not a suture, you're on your period. And I was like, oh, great. She kind of felt bad. She said, I did all I could. I took out everything I could. I just didn't want you to have bowel issues and that kind of thing. So I'm sorry. I said, it's okay. I appreciate the decision you made. I would have wanted you to make that decision regardless. You know, it's obviously not your fault that I'm still having a period. I'm going to use the chiseled shade for like a contour type thing. My body just wants to keep a cycle. It's just like, let's do this. So yeah, I still have a period after my hysterectomy, which it is really light, luckily. I'm just blending that out with this brush. It's not something where I need to wear like tampons or really anything, so that's good at least. I'm gonna use my Rare Beauty liquid blush in Happy, and I'm just putting some on the back of my hand. I knew I feel like this topic I'd probably get done talking about everything that I wanted to talk about before finishing my makeup, so just kind of like taking my time talking about everything. The moral of the story is, if you're having a hysterectomy and you really don't want to have any bleeding, is to have them also remove your cervix. Additionally, I have cramping, which is weird because I have no uterus. I don't know, the body's so weird, but that is normal, I guess, to still have the feeling of cramping and stuff every month. It's not nearly as bad as when I actually had my periods, but it's like, it's not as bad as before my hysterectomy is what I'm trying to say. But it's still there, and it is more of like that ache, I guess. They're pretty mild, but they still happen, which is funny. I'm gonna use this ColourPop Super Shock Cheek in Spoon. I'm gonna take this shade along my lower lash line. If you have any questions about my hysterectomy, or just I can only answer from my experience, but if you have any questions about my experience with anything regarding the hysterectomy, leave your questions in the comments, and at some point, if I get enough questions, I can do a Q&A. Or you can DM me on Instagram. I'll have my Instagram linked in the description box. I pretty much always have my Instagram linked in the description box, but at some point, if I get enough questions, do a Q&A if anyone's interested. I'm gonna blend this out, lower lash line. There's so much information on Google, and you can search, and it's always kind of like the worst case scenarios. And for me, my recovery was really smooth. I mean, I still have a period, but it's really like not that big of a deal. My hysterectomy so far was worth it, and if I had to do it again, I would 100% do it again. Like, I don't regret my decision at all. I'm gonna use the Neutrogena Hydro Boost Lip Shine in, what is this shade? Velvet Wine. I'm probably gonna do a year post-op video, kind of keep you all updated, whoever's interested. I know not everybody's going to be interested, but if you have to have a hysterectomy, then maybe these videos will be helpful for you. But thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch this video. If you haven't already, I would really appreciate if you would subscribe if that's something you want to do. If you enjoyed this video, found it helpful, then please give it a thumbs up. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.